All right, so you're finally doing it, huh? Starting that business. That's awesome. We're here to make sure you don't just dip your toes in, but really dive deep. And we're doing it with a little help from Lestallion and their unique approach to business planning. You know, Lestallion for their journals, right? Sleek and stylish, the kind that almost makes you want to actually write in them for once. Well, they've taken that same energy and channeled it into a set of journal prompts made specifically for entrepreneurs. So instead of just another boring business plan template, think of this more as a guided self-discovery mission.
Yeah, it's like having a brainstorming session, but with yourself and with a little more structure. These prompts aren't just about the logistics of everything. They're designed to help you really uncover your why, like what your driving force is.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about their approach. It's not just about crunching numbers on spreadsheets and market analysis, even though obviously that stuff is still important. But this is more about getting to the core of what makes your business idea really stand out. And more importantly, what makes you tick as an entrepreneur. Like, for example, one of the first prompts you'll see is what inspired you to start your own business? Now, on the surface, that might seem kind of obvious, right? But trust me, there's a reason Lestallion starts there.
It's about tapping into that deeper motivation.
Okay.
Because anyone can come up with an idea for a business.
Yeah.
But what's going to be the thing that fuels you through all those challenges? The late nights, the inevitable setbacks. That's your why.
Exactly. And I feel like you can actually see this reflected in Lestallion's own journey, too. Like, what do you think their why was when they first started out? Was it a love of beautiful stationery? Maybe a desire to inspire creativity? Or even like a frustration with the lack of journals that really spoke to them? I think if we can try to understand their why, it might give us some really great insights into their whole approach to business in general.
That's like we're reverse engineering their success story. By looking at their products, their branding, even their marketing, we can start to piece together what those motivations and values were that guided their decisions.
And that's what I think is so cool about doing this deep dive. We're not just talking about starting any old business. We're talking about building something that's authentically you. So with that in mind, let's unpack another prompt that really stood out to me. How will you measure success? Now, most people, when they hear that, their gut reaction is probably going to be to jump to things like profit margins, revenue growth, that sort of thing. But I think Lestallion is really challenging us to think beyond just the bottom line here.
Definitely. This goes back to the idea of making sure your business aligns with your personal values. How do you define success? Is it financial freedom? Maybe making a difference in your community, creating something truly new? The answer is going to be different for everyone, and that's okay.
And this kind of leads into something else I really appreciate about Lestallion's approach. They don't shy away from the tough stuff. It's not all just, pretty journals and motivational quotes. There's a whole section dedicated to business challenges. And I think that really speaks volumes.
Right? It's about being real.
Yeah.
It's easy to get swept up in all the excitement of starting something new. But being able to see those potential roadblocks ahead of time, that's huge. Lestallion wants to make sure you're prepared, not just inspired.
Oh, absolutely. And one challenge they really zero in on is this idea of balance. That whole work-life integration thing everyone's always talking about. There's even a prompt that asks, how will you prevent your business from taking over your life? I mean, wow, talk about a loaded question, right?
Yeah. It's something every entrepreneur, I think, struggles with at some point. It's so easy to fall into that trap of working 24/7, especially in the beginning when you're so passionate about what you're building. But Lestallion is encouraging us to set those boundaries early on, to think about a business model that's sustainable for us personally, not just about profits.
Yeah, and you know what I think is interesting? It's like Lestallion's own product line kind of speaks to this too. They don't just have business journals. They have those mindfulness journals, creativity journals, goal-setting ones, like a whole range.
It's like they're saying, hey, we want you to be successful in business, but we also want you to have a life outside of it, know?
For sure. And honestly, I think their products are kind of like a subtle nudge in the right direction, like a little reminder to take care of yourself and focus on your personal growth alongside all the business ambitions.
Totally. It's all connected.
Okay, so we've talked about finding your why and facing those challenges head on, but now let's dive into the actual day-to-day of running a business. Because Lestallion doesn't just leave you hanging with a pep talk and good vibes.
Definitely not. They get into the practical stuff, too. There's a whole other section dedicated to business operations.
And here's where you really see their attention to detail shine through. They even have prompts about things like contracts and negotiations, which honestly you don't always find in those like generic business startup guides.
Yeah, it's super important, but it's easy to overlook.
Yeah.
And I think by including that, Lestallion is really emphasizing that you need to think legally strategically right from the get-go.
Exactly. Like, don't wait until you're drowning in paperwork to figure that stuff out. Be proactive. Think long-term, protect yourself. And that just goes back to their whole approach, you know? They don't just want you to feel inspired, they want you to feel informed and empowered, too.
Okay, but here's where I think Lestallion's approach really, really stands out. They have this whole section dedicated to your reflections, which is just brilliant.
It is. It's like they're acknowledging that being an entrepreneur isn't just about growing a business, it's about personal growth, too.
100%. And there was this one prompt that really made me stop and think. It asked, what legacy do you hope your business will leave?
Mm.
I mean, we've all heard that saying, build a brand, right? But this is next level. Lestallion's asking you to think about the actual impact you want to have, the mark you want to leave on the world. It's about so much more than just, transactions and profits. It's about asking yourself, what am I actually contributing?
Right. And again, I think you can see this playing out in Lestallion's own story, too. They're not just out there selling journals. They're building a community,
Yeah.
creating this space for people to tap into their creativity, their goals, like their truest selves.
And that's pretty powerful when you think about it.
Yeah,
They're not just helping people get organized, they're helping them live more fulfilling lives.
exactly. So I think the big takeaway here, and it's a big one, is this. Don't just start a business. Build something that truly matters. Something that reflects what you believe in, what you're passionate about, your vision for the future. Just imagine this for a second. You're holding one of Lestallion's journals, those beautiful ones they make, but instead of being empty, it's filled with your business plan, your dreams, your thoughts on this whole wild ride you're about to go on.
It's like a physical representation of your why, your purpose, your goal.
It's pretty awesome. And hey, who knows? Maybe someday someone will be deep diving into your story, inspired by the successful business you built and the impact you made.
I love that.
So yeah, take a page from Lestallion's book, literally, get yourself a journal, find a quiet spot, and start writing your own story.